You're welcome to the Media Talks webinar series with me, Adebisi Adetunji, the host. The idea behind the Media Talks webinar series is just simply to fill a gap in the media industry. We want to be able to challenge each other as media professionals, whether you are working on TV, on radio, the print, or you are a digital content creator. A lot of times as media professionals, we tend to box ourselves in. There's so much more to, the media space. There's so much you can do with your career as a media professional. And there are many diverse units in the media industry. So this is all about me wanting to encourage and inspire, motivate, and add value to colleagues in the industry. I want you to be able to, evolve, modify yourself, learn what you need to learn from veterans, from whatever other colleagues are doing in the industry, and basically just grow in your careers. And our guest today, our speaker today, is somebody that I met while on the session that he took. Just wowed me. There was so much wealth of experience that he shared with us in that workshop that I just thought I want other colleagues in the industry to hear this. And again, this platform affords us the opportunity to interact, to network. Don't forget to network even as you are here. Check people out on the, in the attendance page, see who is here and see how you can connect. And let's also be open to asking questions. So I welcome everyone on board. David, I welcome you. I welcome you, Adeyele. I welcome everyone that is already here. So right about now, I would like to make welcome Mr. Ahazia Abubakar Suleiman. He is the former Executive Director, News Voice of Nigeria. I tell you, you are up for an interesting time with Mr. Ahazia. You're welcome on board, sir. The floor is right yours now. So let's make welcome.
Thank you very much.
Your emoji.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here, and thank you for having me. Adebisi has introduced me formally. I started my career as a TV reporter with the Bauchi State Television, and I joined Voice of Nigeria in 1996 as an editor reporter. Then I rose through the ranks. Over the years, I became the executive director of news. So I can confidently tell you I've worked for 35 years as a reporter, editor, news manager in the broadcast industry. So I'm happy, but out of the 35 years, 15 years I spent as a sports reporter editor. So you can now know where to place me. So I'm happy to be here. The topic that we're going to look at is ethics versus freedom of speech. The preamble: every profession or trade is guided by a code of ethics that govern its operations. The media is not an exception. In the media, we have a code of ethics. The Nigeria Union of Journalists has its own code of ethics. The Guild of Editors has its own rules that guides them. Just like any other profession, legal profession, they have their own. The medical profession, they have their own code of ethics. We in the media, we have, but hardly do we really kind of abide by those codes of ethics. If you look at the practitioners today, you find out that we miss the point. We do not even follow what the code tells us to do. So you can see in section 39 of the Nigerian Constitution, which guarantees the rights to freedom of expression, provides as follows: every person shall be entitled to freedom of expression, including freedom to hold opinions and to receive and impact ideas and information without interference. That has been guaranteed us in the Nigerian Constitution. But as I said, there are some limitations. Freedom is not absolute. I give you a practical example. In Nigeria today, in Africa, for instance, Nigeria, I think, is the freest. We operate press freely without any interferences, particularly with the coming of the new media today. people just post and do everything. The government is not using the Section 39 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. A lot of people use that freedom and even abuse it. So there are some limitations, and the limitations were brought about so as not to abuse the process. The courts, there are certain informations that the courts are not, you are not supposed to divulge out and to tell people. And just as I said, in these limitations, there are certain things, the information that you receive in confidence, and you are not supposed to disclose that. A lot of us in the media, when somebody tells us this is off camera, he's giving you a background information that you could use to work on. But you find instances that while you have been given that information in confidence, you go and expose it and begin and you cause trouble and confusion. Somebody has trusted you and giving you that information to guide, to help you. I tell you, during the let's start from Jonathan's era, 2013, thereabout, to 2015, when he handed over, we were holding top security meetings in the State House, in the office of the Chief of Staff. During Jonathan's time, I'm telling you this, from 2013 to 2015, we were holding top security meetings. And each time we go there, the top military hierarchy, police, DSS, NIA, Army, Defense Intelligence, and everybody, they will come. It was just a few of us, and they will tell us everything that was happening on the field, particularly when Boko Haram was at its peak. And they will give us all the information, and they will tell us how do they tell Nigerians this kind of, how do they give this kind of information to Nigerians without creating panic and fear in the system, and also not demoralizing those who are fighting the war against insurgents in the Northeast. So we will panel beat, and find a meeting point and give it out. During Buhari's time, all news editors in major newspapers and blogs in this country were having a quarterly meeting where these service chiefs will come brief us and tell us this is not to be disclosed to anybody, but we are giving you, so that when your defense correspondents or security correspondents come with a story, when you know you have a background information, because they don't hold back. They tell us everything that we need to know. And so what they say is off record, is off record. We don't report such meetings. But so even when our freedoms are guaranteed by the Constitution, it is not absolute. The freedom of the courts and national security are some areas that we cannot report or put things, because we will put this country into jeopardy. There is no country where national security is reported as some of us try to do in this country. What is happening in Gaza, in the US, in other countries, Ukraine war, there are certain things that the media see and you cannot report it for in the interest of the state, in the interest of the country. So let's go on. Let's see. So journalists should beware. We should not, it's not everything guaranteed that we have the freedom, but then it is not absolute. It's not everything that you see that you report, so that there will be peace in the land. And so now going forward, what is meant by ethics? What is ethics? Ethics, simply, when you examine the rationale justification for our moral judgment, it studies what is morally right or wrong, just or unjust. In a broader sense, ethics reflects on human beings and their interaction with nature and other humans, on freedom, on responsibility, and on justice. So as journalists, we have a code of ethics, and we are guided by the definition of this ethics, what it means. So there are certain things, when we go into the ethics of Nigerian Union of Journalists, you will see certain things that even though they are there in the public domain, but we are not to aggravate it by reporting it. Let's go on. Yes. Media ethics. Media ethics promotes and defends values such as a universal respect for life and the rule of law and legality. Media ethics defines and deals with ethical questions about how media should use text and pictures provided by the citizens. There are pictures. If a child, a minor, as we say, you are not supposed to expose such a child, his picture. That's why we say we normally cover the face. If it is in the newspaper, if it is TV, turn the back of the child so that that person will not be recognized. You don't have to show, so that they will not be stigmatized in the society, and certain things that they are not supposed to do. It will follow the child forever. And that is why in the ethics, the pictures we show some. I'll give you another example, part of pictures and video clips. There was, when I was working as a TV reporter in Bauchi State, there was crisis, communal crisis in our area. Our director of engineering was preparing for his wedding. He went there with a video camera to capture some scenes that we will use for the jingle of his wedding. And when he returned, he made two communities fighting, using matches to match it themselves. Blood was gushing out, and people were seeing, we saw people rushing. And when he said, I'm not a journalist. See this picture, write the story. It has happened. I captured it for you people. Do your story by yourself. We worked on the script. Unfortunately, Ezekiel Adeye was my manager in news. Unfortunately, we did not work on the pictures, the video clips. So immediately the story went on air, on television. The whole state was in turmoil. The secretary to the government walked into the studio with us, and we had to stop him, say, no, you can't go into the live studio, and say, why did we use that story without clearance from the government? But, you know, ethically, you don't have to wait for the government to come and tell you not to use pictures like that. And you have to warn people who are watching you and say, these pictures that you are about to see, if you are warning them, whether they're volatile, whether they will cause confusion. Some people have really hard that you can faint. So you have to warn, and you have to be ethical. Make sure that your script tallies with the pictures you are showing, and things that are not supposed to be shown. If it is not in the public interest, you don't have to show such pictures, and you have to be. Radio is easy voice, so you can edit the voice anyhow. Pictures are not seen, but newspaper and television, or even YouTube channels, you have to be wary. You have to mind the kind of pictures that you will be showing to your audience. Let's go on. Yes. What does ethics mean in social media? Ethics, by definition, is the concept of what is good, bad, right, and wrong. In social media, the right ethic equals the right perspective and the right thinking on how to leverage social media appropriately and how to engage people in the right manner. We are victims of such. Social media today, the new media, is a go with so many things. They are not sensitive to the society. We don't even mind who is going to see and what effect it will have on the society as trained journalists. And that is why the difference between the conventional media, the trained journalists that operate, and the non-trained ones. Everyone that has a smartphone, an Android phone, thinks he is a journalist because he can snap pictures and post and write all kind of rubbish. We have to be ethical and make sure that everything that is even posted on our blogs, our channels, are properly edited, and it is in the best interest of the society, and not just pushing out things simply because you have the freedom of expression. No. Ethics and freedom. The title of our talk today is Ethics versus Freedom. Yes, you are free to do it, but you have to be ethical in every single thing that you do. Let's go on. Now, I was talking about the code of ethics for Nigerian journalists. There are many, about 15, 16 points that they have listed there for all practicing journalists, all registered journalists. If in other climes, when we had our talk with the media EIS training, I spoke on things like this. Journalists naturally, how journalism started, we were taken as kind of school dropouts and people that are non-concerned with everything, that, or just people that try to poke nose into people's rights and privileges to report and expose them. But a society of journalists in the America sat down and drew a code of ethics that guides them, and to let the society know that journalists are responsible human beings train. Today, the journalism mass communication curriculum has been unbundled, and about 7 areas of specializations have been broken into. You can specialize as a broadcaster, a newspaper journalist, a public relations officer, advertising practitioner, developmental journalism, and so on and so forth. In the past, it's mass comm, and that is why it is referred to mass communication. Everything that has to do with communication will put together in one group. But now, today in Nigeria, they've unbundled it, and we have 7 different disciplines that we could specialize in. So the Nigerian Union of Journalists also, journalism is one of the earliest professions. In Nigeria, before we got independence, the Zigs of this world started practicing journalism, and they were using their profession to agitate for the independence of this country. And the first newspaper, of course, we know, the Iwo Irohin in Abeokuta, started by Reverend Townsend. It was a vernacular paper. But from there, we graduated the West African Pilot, then the era of New Nigerian, the Daily Times, Sketch, other papers, the regional papers that were coming up in the country. And today, I don't know how many papers we have online. Those who come up also with the hard copies. Then coming to talk of the broadcast industry, it was only one station. Today, I think we have almost 200 radio stations and television stations in this country. So you can see Nigerian government has liberalized to bring information, freedom of expression closer to the people. You use vernacular language in areas of where you are to broadcast. So journalists sat on them on their own. They didn't want government to regulate the practice of journalism, and came up with this. And any registered journalist is supposed to abide by this code of ethics. The Nigerian Union of Journalists, as a professional body, set for itself code of ethics that help guide the operations of the journalists in the country. This is the code of ethics for the journalists as prescribed by themselves. It is not government that has prescribed this. They put it on themselves. So let's see, number 1. I'll just run through. We'll run fast. Okay, decision concerning the content of news should be the responsibility of a professional journalist. Yes, I always tell people, my friends who listen to me, I say, well, what you read in the papers, what you hear on the radio, what you watch on TV is the decision of the editor. It's what I want to show the people, or what I want people to hear, or what I want people to read that I put out. It is the decision of the editor to decide on which story to go in. So it's ethical that you choose the stories that are in the best interest of the society to push them out. That is why it is your own decision. Next. Yes, you must be accurate and be fair to all parties in a story. You can never, ever just give one side of the story. I have so many examples. A friend of mine who used a story, somebody told him a story about and he interviewed the guy, and he was accusing the head of planning of the Bauchi State Sports Council, and he did not give the other person fair hearing by going to hear his own side of the story. He went on air. And so the man now quietly, cleverly, smartly requested that, that story you used yesterday, I like it too. Can you give me the tape? Foolishly, my friend went, dubbed the tape, and brought it to the man. And what happened? At the end of it, once the man got the tape, said, okay, we will meet in court. You are not fair to me, and you just accused. If you had come to me, I would have balanced the story for you, and you would have had my own side of the story. Then you take your decision. So journalists should be aware of such a thing. You don't just take one side of the story, and don't allow to be pushed, to be hurried in such a way that you want to rush and break the news. I tell you, as a policy, in Voice of Nigeria, we say we have the authoritative choice. However, we want to be, as much as we want to be with the news, that if we do not balance it and don't get two sides of the story, we don't push and go out. So please, as journalists, as professionals, learn to be fair, learn to be accurate. Your facts have to be accurate. You have to cross-check, fact-check before you go on air. You will not be crucified or killed that you have not broken the news. But if you report it accurately, rather than reporting it wrongly and causing confusion in the society, you better report it accurately, fairly, and fine. Let's get the next clip. Yes, a lot of us are kind of intrude into people's privacy. As a general rule, a journalist should respect the privacy of an individual and their families, unless it affects public interest. If what they are doing is not like the Abacha family loot, it affected the whole Nigeria. So we were reporting it, but it's a family thing. So ordinarily they cannot hide. He was head of state, but there are some individuals whose rights and privileges are covered that you should not kind of expose them, allow them to be. And information on the private life of an individual or his family should only be published if it impedes on public interest. If it is not in the public interest, we are not to publish it. Publishing of such information about an individual, as mentioned above, should be deemed justifiable only if it is directed at one, exposing crime or serious misdemeanor. You can see if it doesn't affect that, he's entitled to his own private life. And also, if you are exposing antisocial conduct, yes, we have seen university lecturers being stripped naked because of having affairs with some students. Such things, yes, it's a misdemeanor, and such conduct should be exposed so as to serve as deterrent to others. Exposing antisocial conduct, protecting public health, morality, and safety, preventing the public from being misled by some sentiments of actions of the individuals concerned. When I was a health correspondent, there was a time I was included in the Bauchi State HIV/AIDS campaign team, sensitization team, and I was getting some information. The moment I started using it, I came up with some slogans which I was using on TV. The moment they saw that some sensitive information exposed you, but I was doing it in the public interest because we had a number of cases that were positive. And I had to say it and warn people that AIDS is real. So when the committee saw that I was exposing them too much, I was removed from the from the committee. So, but I was doing it in the interest of the public. People should be aware that HIV/AIDS is real, and people should not toy with it. You should not have multiple sexual partners. You should protect yourself and all that and all that. So let's go to the next one. Let me run through fast. We'll go privileges and non-disclosure of source. There are some information somebody will tell you off. I've seen it, some journalists practice that. This is off-court. A journalist should observe the universally accepted principle of confidentiality and should not disclose the source of information obtained in confidence. There was a time I was given a task as well to do some interview. I went from the messenger, from the gate man to the messenger to the big man I was trying to interview and get some information from. They gave me what no book. It was not contained in any book. So, but when I finished the interview, I was asked, who gave you all this information? I said, no, I did my investigation. How? No, there must be an insider. I said, nobody gave me. I did my own private investigation. But recall the case during, is it Buhari, Babangida's era, when Tunde Thompson and who were jailed because they refused to disclose the source of information that they got exclusively from the State House. And that is how it should be. Non-disclosure of source. If you disclose the source of information, you have closed the door, and such a person will never, ever have confidence in any Nigerian journalist again. Sometimes here, the common word they use for us in the North here, I did stories. Honestly speaking, there was a time they released untreated water into Bauchi town. And the guys that gave me, these are the plant operators, they told me that for the past 1 week, the water we are releasing into Bauchi town was untreated. And so will I go and disclose and say these are the guys that told me this thing? No. That led to the sacking of the general manager of the water board. And I did it in the interest of the state, because if there was an epidemic, everybody in Bauchi State would have been affected, because that's where the water is pumped. So if they give you reports confidentially, you are not to go and reveal the source of your information. Another thing that led to the dissolution of Bauchi State Sports Council, I was sworn chairman in Bauchi. Then the cashier in the sports council came to me. How can you help our athletes? I said, how? See, monies are released for them to go for national competitions, but these guys that are sitting in the air-conditioned offices will share the money, and they will not allow the athletes to go. They will say there's no money. Government has not released money. Meanwhile, government has released money. I say, how do I get these facts? He photocopied all the vouchers, everything, and gave it to me. I went and photocopied and hid somewhere and brought a copy, should in case. So I addressed a press conference, and I protected the guy, even though if they had traced users, I refused to release the documents. If I released, they would trace and find where those documents had come from. So I protected my source, and it helped. Those people were sacked, and Bauchi State started participating in all national competitions, as it were. So a journalist should not breach an agreement with a source of information obtained as off the record or as background information. We have some of this background information that I told you, the meetings we've been holding during Jonathan's time and Buhari's time. They give us background information. When you're doing a kind of a feature, if you're doing a documentary, you have that information at your background. You may not just authoritatively just bring it out, but you use it to guide you, to guide against disclosing some information that will be sensitive to the society or affect national security. So these are the kind of background information they give you as a journalist to help you go and investigate further and get whatever you get. Next. Decency, this one. Well, a journalist should dress and comport himself in a manner that conforms with public taste. A journalist should refrain from using offensive, abusive, or vulgar language. A journalist should not present lurid details, either in words or picture, of violence or sexual act, and all horrid scenes like that. In case involving personal grief or shock, inquiries should be carried out and approaches made with sympathy and discretion. I told our media EIS fellows the other time, I was asked to go and cover a story. The chief judge of Bauchi State then died, and I was asked to go and cover. I saw people follow them to the cemetery. We buried him. We came back. People were coming to pay condolences to the family, and I took all those things. I thought I had my story. I came back home. I came back to the office, wrote my story. When my news manager saw me, he said, who did you interview among the family members? I held my head. I said I couldn't because I was empathizing with them, and I was afraid to even talk to any of the family members. He said, consider yourself sacked if you don't go and get family members' voices. I had to rush back. Unfortunately for me, I saw a colleague who was a relation of the deceased. So I said, please, so can you help me get me one of the family members so that I could interview to talk to us about the lives and times of the late chief judge. So that was how I got my story. And so you can understand that going where there is serious death, family are mourning, to get information, to extract information, you have to also be kind of be empathetic to them. You have to show empathy, serious empathy, and show the concern. They have lost somebody. Maybe he's a breadwinner, a big man, and you want them to talk. What do you want them to say? So you have to follow them carefully, be patient, and you will get the kind of information that you want. Next. Reward and gratification, brown envelope syndrome. Chai, my colleagues, can we do without it? Some proprietors will tell you, we've given you ID card, go and use it to get the money you want. I have always told my colleagues in the office when I was in service, I say, I will not stop you from collecting any money, but if you are reported to me that you have collected money, I will punish you. Collect it and let me not know that you collected that money. Let me not know that you collected such money. Collect it, but if I know, I'll punish you. Say no. Some papers like Daily Trust, they normally put a page. No, thank you. Do not give our journalists any kobo. So if such is copied and replicated everywhere in our media, I think there will be respect. Whenever you go, you see them, see them. This guy, John people, brown envelope syndrome. If you don't have money, in Gombe, where I am talking now, there was a time my colleague who was my classmate in the university. He just retired. We retired together, and there was a time. Very good story. He works with he retired from News Agency of Nigeria. It's very good story, excellent story, but the people did not invite the media. They don't have money, the brand envelope to give the journalists. That my friend said, no, allow me, I will cover it. You don't have to give me, I have a car, I will come cover it. And he covered it, being a News Agency of Nigeria reporter. The story was circulated and everywhere. The following day, they came to him and started thanking. So journalists can do work without payment. He said, yes, it is not. We are paid to do this job, and we should not turn ourselves into beggars and begin. That demeans us, and it reduces the credibility of our profession. So do not demand payment for publication of news. It is inimical to the notion of news as a fair, accurate, unbiased, and factual report for the event. So if they give you it will, I always tell my colleagues when I was editor on the desk, I said, if you collect money for any story, the tone of your write-up, it will show. If they gave you money, if they don't give you money, the tone will show. You see somebody writing high, things that ordinarily wouldn't have been the lead, they will bring it to become the lead. But if they get money, you see them singing high praises, singing and shouting, singing praises. So as journalists, we should be professional. We should avoid any kind of collecting any gratification or reward. Violence. A journalist should not present or report acts of violence, armed robberies, terrorist activities, or vulgar display of wealth in a manner that glorifies such an act in the eyes of the public. This is also part of the reward and gratification that we talked about in terms of we glorifying criminals. We are to be held responsible for criminals, those who corrupt people, who enrich themselves, and we go ahead pressing them and making traditional rulers to give them titles. We should show the evil in what they have done, but not to glorify them. Next. Children and minors, I've talked about this. Journalists should not identify either by name or picture or interview children under the age of 16 who are involved in cases concerning sexual offenses, crime, ritual, or witchcraft, either as victims, witnesses, or defendants. Please do not bring children into it. This is part of this. I'm not the one that created it. It was NUJ that came up, and journalists came together and agreed on these things. Why are we not? You see a small child being shown on TV, or his picture being published on newspaper pages. I mean, for something you are not supposed to. It's unethical, it's unprofessional, and we should avoid it. Please, if you don't, this slides will be shared to you so that you hold this part that affects us as journalists, our code of ethics, and abide by it. It will help us and even help the society in general. Next. Access to information. Journalists should strive to employ open and honest means. Do not blackmail to gather information. We've had people blackmailing to gather information. Use some tactics to gather information if they are proving difficult. Yes, the next topic, part of it we're going to talk about is the freedom of information. Guarantees us and give us the ability to listen to any kind of thing. So if it is a journalist should strive to enhance national unity and public good, social responsibility. A journalist should promote universal principle of human rights, democracy, justice, equity, peace, and international understanding. Next. Plagiarism. We should not copy anything without the authority of the author. I had a case when my friend, a classmate of mine in secondary school, became the governor of my state, Gombe State. His first 100 days, I articulated everything that he has done, published it. Well, a radio man, but I had colleague editors who helped me. This they published it, The Sun, and whether Guardian or Punch, no, Trust. They published it, and one paper saw that article that I wrote. Then they queried the reporter here in Gombe, why have you not done such a thing? So he lifted what I wrote and put in his write-up concerning the first 100 days of the governor. So I called him because I knew the guy. I called him and I said, sir, we'll meet in court. You lifted my write-up without due clearance or permission from me. So we should avoid using such things without getting the permission of the original author. So we should be careful and make sure that we do not reproduce people's work without permission. Next. Just let's go on. It's the same thing. You can read it. Now, coming to the Freedom of Information Act 2011, this had been before it became an act of parliament. It has been there over the years since Obasanjo's time. People were pushing and pushing for this Freedom of Information Act to be signed into law until 2011, when President Jonathan signed it into law. Before then, it was not there, and people could hide and keep some vital information that are in public interest themselves and refuse to release it. So with this Freedom of Information Act, the law of the freedom is part of the Constitution of Nigeria, where we have freedom. In 2011, the Freedom of Information Bill was signed into law, becoming an act of parliament. When I was in office, there were some NGOs, groups that wrote and requested how we were spending the monies allocated to us in the budget of the year. So we have to answer them. You cannot ignore, because it is the right of every Nigerian to know how public monies are given to you, how you spend it, and you can ask as a journalist, use this act, go to any office, write formally, and request for certain information to be given to you. So if you do that, they will give you, because we are guaranteed. Some of the rights include, not limited to the following. Let's look at some of the rights for us to an act to make public records and information more freely available, provide for public access to public records and information, protect public records and information to the extent consistent with the public interest and the protection of protection. Something is missing there. Personal privacy, protect serving public officers and adverse consequences of disclosure of certain kinds of official documents. So there are some things that are missing there. So please, the Freedom of Information, let me speak generally on what the Freedom of Information Act provides for us. Yes, as I said in the preamble, yes, there is freedom, but the freedom is not absolute. There are certain areas. Do not think that you can use the Freedom of Information Act and get such information. Things that pertains the court, things that pertains national security, things that pertains minors, the Americans call it, or whatever they call it, minors. You don't have to disclose it and request for information. Such persons, they are protected under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So we should be careful, in as much as we are allowed to ask and seek for information to guide and to help us inform the public. It is not everything that we have the right to collect or to get information about. There are some limitations. Next. Now, I want to thank you for listening. I hope I've not bored you. If you have any question where I have not explained properly, I will be willing and ready to answer your questions. Thank you, Adebisi. Thank you, all. David, thank you, Ola Dakbo. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Question.
Yes, so thank you so much. It's been a short time, but we can feel the experience, the wealth of experience. So when you talk about this freedom of speech, how do we balance in terms of remuneration? you find out that media professionals, journalists are underpaid. So how do we manage I'm trying to manage myself, get remunerated as much as possible. How do we manage it and balance it? Because again, I think that is what predisposes our colleagues, to the idea of, I'm doing so much. I drove my car, I fuel my car, I took Okada. The organization wants stories. I don't know how I'm going to do it. So how do we balance it, sir?
Okay, well, for those working in government, I was part of the team that was always going to negotiate for special media salary. Unfortunately, till I left service, that has not come to be. Balancing the issue of, you cannot throw away professionalism because you want to get some money. For some other agencies, I'll give you an example where you worked also at ABC and retired.
Yeah.
I know if the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, if you bring an
Yes.
advert and you have certain percentage of it, like for my
Yes.
office, to encourage people, what we do, if you bring any advert or any special program or partnership with other agencies, whatever money is involved, you are given 20%, so as to serve as an encouragement and incentives. And we saw young girls that were bringing partnerships from effort, from Central Bank, from NNPC, from Federal Inland Revenue, getting millions at the end of the day. So if everybody should work hard and get partnership, get special productions, you don't have to demean yourself, to belittle yourself, to collect brown envelope that some people will curse. You don't have to be beggarly. Why? I give you another practical example. The then sports editor of Tribune, John, his surname is from Edo, an elderly man like that, told me one time while I was in Lagos reporting sports, he said, they give you money, don't collect. Beg the person giving you the money to give you supply of stationery, to give you supply of one or two things, rather than you collecting money, small money, and he forgets to say those brown. But if you tell him you have a project you're executing, let him help you with small contract. You can use that goodwill, the relationship. Those who collect small money lose the respect of the people that are giving you the money. But when you refuse to collect and comport yourself very well professionally, and anything you come to ask for, which will fetch you more money, you will be granted. So let us not say because we have been enumerated very well, we should belittle ourselves and stoop too low to collect useless money that will not help us or do us anything.
Thank you so much, sir. Does anybody have one more last question before we run off? Okay. Oladapo said, Oga has said it all.
No. When you don't ask questions, you know what we say? When you don't ask questions, it means whether you are not following or I was talking rubbish. That is not uninteresting.
No. I believe they picked a number of things. Oladapo. Why do management expect newsroom to always make more money for the station instead of information? So stations are commercialized now. That's the issue. Yeah.
Exactly. When you operate a commercial radio station, I always give practical examples. A colleague of mine walked to me and said, Oga, they say I should go and manage an FM station is coming up in Abuja, and they say I should be giving them 5 million every month outside the money that will raise and pay the staff salaries. I say a new station that has not started. How do they know the advertisers? So please, management should not force you to do that. They should find a way of marketing. I'm in Gombe. I've been listening to all the local FM stations around. And what they do is to partner with the state government and produce special programs, partner with the State House of Assembly, the few private companies that operate here. You have to go out aggressively market the station. But for the news people, you are not on the course of your job, and you get somebody that wants to partner with you. Excellent, fine. But certainly you cannot just sacrifice news reporting and making money for the station. No.
Unfortunately, thank you so much for that contribution. So unfortunately, that is the thing now. The stations expect all the media professionals, whether you are in the news department or you are in the programs department, everybody go and make money, and that puts a lot of pressure. Well, if you ask
Unfortunately.
me, unfortunately, but what I would say is this. I would want to encourage you as much as within your, capacity. Try, even though you are trying to make money for your station, just ensure that you do not do anything that will mess you up. Do legit, legit news coverage. Yes, reach out to the organization. I think there are proper ways of do legit things. And once you do legit things and people can value your work, they will call you back to do things. So in as much as it's commercialization, just make sure that it is legit, that it's not just all about copy and paste, like we said, or you just put anything in the news that undersells and makes a rubbish of news coverage and your profession. So if your audience can trust your content and your news, you're likely going to have more people buying into your news and coverage and your station. I am rooting for you. I believe that the top is beyond the sky is your limit. So there is so much more you can do with your career as a media professional. There is so much more. Don't limit yourself. Don't box yourself in. There's so much more. Don't limit yourself and say, it's behind the mic forever and ever. There's a lot that the media space offers now that you cannot afford to dull yourself. Like I say, you need to diversify. You need to evolve so that you can continue to remain relevant, so that you will not be boxed to collect envelope that you should not be collecting. Once your skills are versatile, you will find yourself doing a lot of things, bringing a lot of value to the table that makes you to stand out. So let's think of learning a lot. Please latch on to the digital learnings. Again, AI tools. Somebody recently lost some million naira opportunity because he didn't know how to use AI. He's tech savvy. Recording video, an opportunity came. He even thought to say, which kind of AI, what is there? He's tech and he's used to the normal manual thing. And I was having a conversation with him. He had to, in fact, Shogo was the one that went to do the lesson for him. I had to call Shogo. I said, Shogo, please come and go and teach this, my friend. Because he just discovered that this thing is huge. So if you're a media person, you know how to handle camera, and they're telling you that the AI can do much more with your camera, and you say, no, I don't want to learn it. You will lose out. You will lose out. So let's evolve and do much more with the skills that we have. So I wish us all the best. I'm looking forward to seeing us next time. My name is Adebisi Adetunji, your colleague. I do media and development communications. I've written some books. My first media book is Undaunted. Is on Amazon, is on Seller, and some other books. Look out for them. We are going to be announcing this June. Talking to media professionals are on the way coming out. We are going to be announcing that soon. So thank you so much for your time. Please tell us about this. Follow me on YouTube. And my idea is just to encourage ourselves and just move as many people as are willing to do more with this media industry. So thank you so much. Thank you, Shogo, my tech guy, my tech colleague. Thank you, Adeyele. Thank you, Oladakwan. Everyone, thank you so much. See you some other time. Bye.